Wow, it was amazing reading all the comments on our previous one, looking over the Reddit stories. And I have loads of more scary ones today as we continue building our home here on the survival world. And we're not going to waste any time. So this one is titled, My Brother Found a Door in the Woods. I Wish We Never Opened It. I'm not really sure where it started. I've been sitting on this for a few days, and honestly, it still feels like a dream or maybe a nightmare I can't wake up from. For context, my younger brother Matt and I grew up exploring the woods near our grandfather's cabin in northern Minnesota. We knew every tree, every game trail, every weird moss-covered rock. It was our little world. Last week, we went back to the cabin for the first time in years. Just the two of us, kind of a nostalgia trip, firewood, and we planned to just kind of spend the weekend off-grid. Saturday morning, we hiked out past the old deer blind. About 3 miles into the tree line, that's when we saw it. A door. Just a door. No frames, no wall, no structure. It was just standing there in the clearing like someone had dragged it out of a house and planted it upright. It was a dark green chipped with a rusted old brass knob. No hinges. No reason it should still be standing, and yet it was. I thought it was an art piece or a prank at first. Matt, being the impulsive idiot he is, immediately went up to it. Let's open it, he said. Now, this is where I should have stopped him. I know I should have, but curiosity got the better of both of us. When he turned the knob and pulled, the door opened into pitch blackness, like actual black. Not shadow, not shade. It looked like an opening into the void. No trees behind it, no forest, just black. In the air, it got cold. And I mean instantly. My breath came out in clouds, even though it was like 72 degrees that day. Matt stuck his head in just for a second. He jerked back, looked at me, and I swear to God, he said, "There's someone in there." He looked off, pale, shaky. I asked him what he saw. He said nothing. He wouldn't talk the whole way back. That night, I woke up to the sound of the front door creaking open. I checked and Matt was gone. I found him standing outside barefoot, staring into the woods, just whispering to himself, and he kept saying, "He said I can come in now." When I touched his shoulder, he screamed like I was burning him. He collapsed to the ground, sobbing, begging someone, not me, to please let him stay. We left the next morning. That was 3 days ago. Matt hasn't spoken since. He won't eat, won't sleep. He just stares at the wall and sometimes mumbles things that makes no sense. Things like, "The forest bends there. He's wearing my skin. Don't follow the trees," with no sound. I went back yesterday. I don't know why. I think I wanted to prove to myself that it was just some weird hallucination, some forest gas leak or mold or whatever. But the door isn't there anymore. There's just a ring of dead grass and something carved into the tree nearby. 4 words, burned in deep. You opened it too. Interesting little Kickstarter there for stories. I imagine you're hiking and you find just a door kind of like stamped in the ground. I think that would make anybody feel a little bit off. I don't want to run into any doors as I'm hiking or walking any type of trail. I think that's just a clear indication to get out of there. The next one is titled, The Motel Room That Doesn't Exist Anymore. I wasn't going to post this. I've gone back and forth about it for weeks. But something changed last night. I got a call at 3:12 a.m. from a number I didn't recognize. No one spoke on the other end, but I heard a faint music, like a warped version of elevator jazz, and someone breathing. I hung up. I blocked the number. It called again anyways. So yeah, I'm writing this now in case something happens to me. It started 3 weeks ago. I was driving across the country for work, a freelance gig doing documentation for a restoration project in Colorado. I had to stop near the Kansas border, and I didn't plan ahead. I just figured I'd find a cheap place off the highway like I always do. That's how I ended up in a place called the Hilltop Inn. It wasn't listed on Google Maps. I only found it because I missed an exit, and I had to turn around through a small service road. The sign was rusted and hanging off one chain, swaying in the wind. It looked abandoned, but the neon vacancy sign light was on, barely flickering, but still lit. It was around 9:30 p.m. I was exhausted, and the next listed motel was over 40 miles away, so I pulled in. The parking lot had exactly one other car, a 90s Buick with no license plate. At the front desk, a man greeted me, kind of. He just nodded as I walked in. No hello, no how can I help you. He had this stillness to him, like he barely blinked, like he was just waiting. I told him I needed a room for the night, and he slipped me the key without a word. Room 103. No paperwork, no ID check, no payment, just a key. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just leave? But that's the thing. I felt like I couldn't. Like the moment I stepped into the lobby, something settled in me, like gravity got heavier, like I was supposed to be there. I remember even saying out loud, well, I guess this works. Room 103 was at the far end of the motel. The lights in the hallway buzzed like old insects were trapped inside. The carpet was sticky, the wallpapers peeled at the corners like it had been trying to shed itself for years. The door to room 03 had scratch marks near the bottom, like a dog or something else had tried clawing its way in or out. I turned the key and stepped inside. That's when things got strange. The room was spotless, pristine, even impossibly clean. White sheets, folded towels, the smell of lavender. There was even a mint on the pillow. The air was dead still. No sound, no distant highway noise, no wind, no humming from the mini fridge. I tried turning on the TV, just static, no channels. I tried calling the front desk. The phone was dead. No dial tone, not even a click. I laid down fully clothed and tried to sleep. At 1:14 a.m., I heard the knock. 3 short knocks, then silence. I sat up. My heart was racing. I thought maybe it was the guy from the front desk. Maybe he realized I hadn't paid yet. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. I opened the door, but the hallway was completely dark. Even though the lights had been on before, no buzzing, no glowing. I turned around and froze. The bed was made like no one had been sleeping in it. The mint was back on the pillow, and I swear to you, I hadn't eaten it. I remember the weird chalky taste. I remember biting down on it. And then I heard the whisper from under the bed. Lie down. You're not ready to leave yet. I was paralyzed for a full 10 seconds. Then I grabbed my bag and bolted out the door. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. But the keys were gone, not just misplaced, gone. The glove box was open. My papers were scattered like someone had gone through them. The only thing still there was the key to room 103, sitting perfectly on the driver's seat. That was the first night. I stayed. I don't know why. Something kept me there. I tried calling for help with the lobby phone. It rang once, and then someone whispered my full name, and the line went dead. Every attempt to leave failed. I walked for 2 hours in what should have been 10-minute trip to the main road. I circled back to the motel accidentally. The GPS on my phone spun like a compass in a magnet storm. Eventually, I gave up. Each night, I stayed at room 103. Each night, I heard the knocking. Each night, the voice whispered something new from beneath the bed. Don't close your eyes. They're watching you. You died on the road. This is where your mind stayed. The whispers weren't always in English. One night, they weren't even human. I stopped sleeping after the third night. I stopped eating. I couldn't. The food from the vending machine was just packaging, empty bags, cans with no weights. On the 5th day, I woke up in the motel room that wasn't room 103. There was no number on the door, no windows, just a mirror, and my reflection wasn't mine. It was smiling. I wasn't. The door opened by itself. The front desk guy was just standing there, and he handed my car keys. You're ready to go now, he said. I didn't ask. I didn't speak. I just left. The highway was 20 feet away this time. I drove until my tank was nearly empty, and I only stopped at a gas station when I saw people, real people. I asked about the Hilltop Inn. No one had ever heard of it, not even the locals. I even checked historical building records. There's no motel listed in that county. None. Ever. But now, the calls, they started 3 nights ago. Always at 3:12 a.m. Always the same hold music, always silence. I blocked the number. They still come. Last night, when I got home, there was a mint on my pillow. That's where it ends. Interesting. I mean, in comparison, I think whenever you're doing long road trips, you got to stop at a place to stay for the night. It's always good to steer clear of a motel that seems a little offsetting. Flickering lights, things of sort. I think that's where we should definitely go the other way, right? We don't want to stay at a motel like that. And definitely not room 103. I don't know what significance that number specifically has held to it, but room 103, I'm going to have to decline on that one for sure. The next one's called There's a Room in My House That Keeps Moving. I bought this house 2 months ago. I think that's important to establish up front. I've lived here for 61 days exactly. It was a foreclosure, tucked away in a quiet cul-de-sac in Michigan, built in 1974. One previous owner. And it was a cheap because of the structural quirks the listing said. That phrase seems a little funny now. I didn't think much of it at the time. I assumed it had some creaky floorboards, Poor insulation, the kind of stuff older homes usually come with. It's not like I had a lot of options. I had just gone through a rough divorce, got laid off, and honestly, I needed to downsize fast. The house was half the cost of anything else in the area, a bit run down, but livable. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 master, 2 smaller rooms, one of which I turned into an office. The third, I wasn't sure what to do with it. It just sort of existed. Empty, unused, and weirdly unsettling. I started noticing something was wrong during the first week. I'd walk past the hallway in the morning and notice the third room was on the left side. Then later that evening, it would be on the right side. I thought I was just tired or misremembering, but it kept happening. Sometimes the door was further down the hall. Sometimes it was closer to the front. Once I could have sworn it was across the bedroom. The next morning, it was next to the kitchen. I didn't say anything at first. I live alone. I figured it was just stress. You'd be amazed at how much your brain can mess with you when you're alone in a silent house too long. Until the night I got up to get water, and the room was completely gone. I stood in the hallway blinking at an empty wall where the door had been. No seam, no outline, just smooth drywall like it had never been a door there at all. Then I turned around, and it was behind me. The door was on the opposite wall, open, the light was on, but I had never turned that light on. Inside, the room was completely bare, just a dusty carpet, pale blue walls, and one window overlooking the backyard. I stepped in. I don't know why. Curiosity, stupidity. I felt pressure in my ears as I crossed the threshold like cabin pressure shifting on a plane. The second I entered, I felt watched. Not metaphorically. I heard breathing. Something was behind me. And when I turned around, the door was gone. I was staring at 4 solid walls. No doors, no seam, no knob. I spun in circles, panic rising. I started banging on the wall where the door had been. Nothing, not even an echo. That's when the window started fogging up slowly, like something was breathing on the other side, and then it wrote something, 3 words smeared into the condensation. You found me. I screamed. I'm not ashamed to admit. I screamed like a trapped animal. I clawed at the walls, at the corner, anything. And just as I suddenly was, it had vanished, and the door was there again. I didn't hesitate. I ran through, slammed it shut behind me, and did not sleep that night. The next day, I nailed the door shut, literally. I drove 8 nails around the frame and pushed a bookcase in front of it. I don't care if the room was moving. I just didn't want it open. But that didn't stop it. Over the next few weeks, I started finding the door in other places, in the kitchen, in the garage, once in the mirror. Always shut, always silent, like it was there waiting. The last straw came 4 nights ago. I was brushing my teeth. The bathroom door was half closed. In the mirror, I saw movement behind me. Just a flicker. I turned, expecting to see my cat maybe, but there was nothing there except the hallway looked longer than it should have ever been. Much longer, like it stretched back 20, 30 feet further than physically possible. And at the end of it, barely visible at the dim light, the door, wide open. I stepped into the hallway and the floor was different. Wood instead of the carpet I had walked across 1,000 times. The pictures on the walls weren't mine. They weren't even photos, just scribbles, childlike crayon drawings, stick figures. The ones had no faces. The door at the end slowly creaked shut on its own as I walked towards it, but the knob was still visible. Turning, like someone was on the other side, I bolted back to the bathroom and slammed the door, locked it, and waited. The hallway was normal again the next morning, but I know what I saw, and I know it happened. Here's the part where it gets really hard to explain. I had a friend from work come over. I didn't tell her everything, just that I needed help measuring something in the spare room. She followed me down the hall, looked confused, and asked, "Which room? You only have 2 bedrooms, right?" I swear to you, there was no third door. Even I couldn't see it. Until she left that night, the door was back. Only now it had a deadbolt on the outside, like it was meant to keep something in. I haven't opened it since, and I won't. But every night now, I hear something moving in the wall, something pacing, scratching. Last night I heard a voice whisper through the keyhole. It sounded like me. "Let me out. I'm still in here." I don't think this house is haunted. I think it's alive, and I think it's trying to remember what room I came from. I think we all have instances where we've rented homes or we've stayed at someone's house and scary things have occurred. Personally, for me, I remember when I was younger, I had went over to a friend's house and was sleeping over, and the doorknobs at night would turn by themselves, as if somebody was on the other side of the doorknob just turning it. No, the doors never opened, but the knobs would just turn. And that always kind of resonated and stuck with me. I thought it was very odd why that had happened. You know, later on, moving around, you move into houses that at night you hear like a child It sounds like like a child running through the house, like the steps that you would hear of a running child through the hallways in the house. You open the bedroom door you're in and you look down the hallway and you see nothing. And then you hear tapping coming from the basement. These are all real things that have happened to me. So I know usually it's very hard to determine paranormal experiences or have truthfulness in them, as it's kind of hard to tell what's real or fake. For all I know, it could have been a rat or something in the floor somehow moving around, and just sounded so accurate to something of that sort. I think a lot of things have explanations behind it, but I also know if anybody's been on minimum sleep for long, consistent amounts of time, they've been through areas in their life that is like really, like you're just exhausted. Sometimes your mind can play tricks on you. Hallucinations are a real thing. So it's interesting to hear stories about some of the things that people have went through. Mind you, some of these are probably exaggerated fiction, expended on something that might have happened, but still super interesting. The next one is titled, "The Shadow Man in the Corner of My Room is Getting Closer." This all started the night I moved into my new apartment. It was supposed to be temporary, a 6-month lease where I got back on my feet. The rent was suspiciously cheap for the area, but I didn't ask too many questions. Just me, a mattress on the floor, and a desk. The basics. I remember the first night clearly because there was a full moon in the room filled with a soft silver light through the blinds. That was the first time I saw him. A figure, just standing in the far corner of my room, motionless, blacker than black, like a hole in the air. He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. I stared at him for maybe 10 minutes, thinking it was just a trick of the shadows. I even got up and turned on the light. He was gone. I laughed it off. Long day, new environment. Maybe my eyes were just tired. The next day, he was back. Same spot, same posture. That time, I didn't get up. I just stared, and he stared back. Or at least, I felt like he was, even though he had no face, no eyes, just a silhouette of a shape of a man. I turned on the light, gone again, and I started leaving the lights on while I slept. That worked for a while. About a week, I woke up in darkness. My bedside lamp had blown out, maybe a power surge. Maybe something happened. I sat up groggy, annoyed, and there he was. But this time he was closer, not in the corner, not far away, just a few feet from the end of my bed. I didn't move, I didn't breathe, I just stared, and he looked as he took a step forward. No sound, no movement of air, just a glide, like space itself shifted him forward. I scrambled to turn on the flashlight on my phone, but it didn't work. The screen wouldn't light. It was like everything electronic in the room was dead. I remember whispering to myself, "This isn't real," over and over again. "This isn't real. This isn't real." Eventually, dawn came. The moment sunlight touched the wall, he vanished like smoke. That was the first night I considered sleeping somewhere else, but I didn't. I was stubborn. I didn't want to believe I was going crazy, or worse, that something supernatural was happening. That would mean I couldn't fight it with logic, and that terrified me more than anything. The visits continue. He never moved when I watched, but every few nights he'd be closer, 2 feet from the bed, then one, then right at the edge. 2 weeks in, I woke up and he was at my bedside. I could feel the cold radiating off of him. It wasn't just temperature, it was emptiness, like he brought absence with him, like the air around him didn't exist anymore. And the worst part, he was leaning forward, not touching me, not speaking, just tilting his blank face down towards mine, as if studying or waiting. I passed out. Not from fear, but from something else, a pressure on my skull, like my brain couldn't handle perceiving him at that distance. I blacked out like someone had flipped a switch in my mind. When I came to, it was 7:04 a.m. The birds were chirping, the light was warm again. He was gone. But now, I never slept through the night. I wake up exactly at 3:33 a.m. every single time, no alarm set, no noise, just instinct. My eyes snap open and he's there. Not always in the same spot, sometimes near the window, sometimes at the foot of the bed. Once I found him at the reflection of the bathroom mirror. When I turned around, he wasn't there. I stopped using mirrors after that. I started researching shadow people, night terrors, sleep paralysis, every explanation under the sun, except I'm not asleep when it happens. I can move, I can speak, I can even try talking to him. What do you want? No answer. Are you real? Silence. But a few nights ago, I asked something different. Are you me? And for the first time, he tilted his head just slightly, as if curious, as if acknowledging. I haven't asked anything since. I don't bring people over anymore, not after what happened with Jenna. She stayed over once, just once, and in the middle of the night, I woke up to her crying on the floor, hugging her knees, rocking back and forth. She wouldn't speak. I had to call her sister to come get her. She won't return my calls, but she texted me one thing a few days ago. He was watching you sleep. I tried moving, packed my things, got a new apartment across town. The first night was peaceful, bright, warm, silent. The second night, I woke up at 3:33 a.m. He was in the corner, same shape, same stillness, only this time he waved. I think he's following me. Or maybe he's inside me now. Maybe he always has been. Maybe he's not a shadow at all. Maybe he's a reflection. Some nights I think he's clearer, like his outline is sharpening, like he's becoming more real. Like one night I wake up and he won't be standing there anymore because he'll be lying beside me. Wow. That is definitely interesting. I'm sure many individuals have had issues or experiences with sleep paralysis. It's a real thing that affects people in various ways, and it's documented that people have seen shadow, dark figures during their sleep paralysis, and I definitely don't think it's something to just kind of shrug off. And if you have experienced something of this set, I think you definitely don't shrug off a story like this. Out of all the stories we looked at, this one seems to be the most real so far. The next one is, I worked the night shift at a gas station 15 miles from the nearest town. But people keep asking me about the town just down the road. I work at an all-night gas station and shop near the Erewhon County Loop Road. For those unfamiliar with America's most isolated county, Erewhon is the largest island more than 100 miles out from the Sea of Baltimore. The Loop Road makes a circle around the island and connects most of the major towns. The station is located about halfway between Mudsark and Jerusalem. If you know the area, then you know how isolated it is, and which is why I took the job. I always fancy trying my hand at writing a novel and working way out with no civilization larger than a trailer park or a farmhouse for 15 miles in either direction. Long story short, that struck me as a good way to make some money while having free time to tackle this project. Despite all that, I assure you this isn't fiction. I wish I was creative enough to make something this strange up. First things first, my name is David. It's not, but I'd rather stay anonymous. And I've had this job for about 2 weeks. The last guy to hold this job was a kid who helped trade me for 2 days and then shipped out. He was joining the Air Force, and I was hired really quickly to fill the vacuum he would be leaving. To my understanding, he kind of sprung it on the owner out of the blue. Anyways, he seemed kind of nervous those 2 nights, but I chalked it up to him being about his leave for basic training and thought nothing of it. In like 20 miles, she responded. To be clear, the town okay. Guys, I am trying. Okay. The reason reading that one was difficult is the grammar and the structure of the sentence, whereas very misplaced. I wanted to read it, but I could not correct the grammar as I was reading it. So, it was difficult. Basically, essentially, the story goes, like a ghost town appears or something, and these people that are dead, or perhaps dead, kind of show up at the gas station and talk to him. I feel like we got to redeem ourselves from that one. I need to get one that's definitely more easier to read here. Yeah, I was not expecting that to be like that. So let's go ahead and get up to another one. Okay, so the title of this one's called I Signed Up for a Sleep Study. They Won't Let Me Leave. This one looks fairly well put together. So it was supposed to be easy money. $2,000 for 7 nights. No needles, no medication, just sleep in a monitor room where they tracked my patterns. A new study at a private research clinic had posted flyers all over my university subreddit. The wording was vague, but enough students had commented legit and easy. So I figured, why not? The facility wasn't what I expected. It looked like a converted office building into a business park. Bland and beige, no signal outside. The guy in scrubs met me at the door and walked me down a carpeted hallway that smelled like printer toner and cold spaghetti. Room 7, my room. Inside was a bed, a small desk, and a mounted camera in the corner. A small blue light ran along the ceiling. Not quite harsh enough to be annoying. The attendant handed me a contract on a clipboard. I skimmed it, the usual stuff, liability, consent, non-disclosure, but there was a line near the bottom that made me pause. Subjects agree not to leave this facility during the duration of the study, regardless of perceived circumstances. I raised an eyebrow. He smiled and said, just a legal formality. Some people sleepwalk or panic. It's a liability clause. I signed. Wish I hadn't. The first night went fine. They hooked a few sensors to my temple, placed a soft ring on my finger to track vitals, and told me to sleep normally. I was out within an hour, and when I woke up, a tray of food was waiting outside my door. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. No one spoke to me. I assumed everything was monitored digitally. The second night, I woke up at 3:12 a.m. to the sound of a faint static, not from the hallway, but inside my room. I sat up. The monitor light was pulsing. The camera lens in the corner was glowing red. I tried to wave at it, but it didn't react. When I stepped out into the hall, no one was there. All the other doors were closed. Dead silence. I went back in, chalking it up to bad wiring or some kind of audio test. Then night 3 happened. I woke up facing the wrong direction. My head was at the foot of the bed. The sheets were on the floor. My fingers felt numb, like they had been clenching something all night. And on the desk was a photo of me sleeping. But the angle wasn't from the ceiling camera. It was lower, closer, as if something had stood right beside my bed. I rushed to the door and tried to open it. It was locked. I knocked, no response. I banged, I screamed, nothing. 3 hours later, the door clicked and a tray of food slid in. No explanation. I demanded to leave that morning. I banged on the security window in the hallway, but no one came. The window was tinted. I could see a vague silhouette behind the glass. They didn't move. I yelled, "This isn't funny anymore. I'm done." The intercom clicked. The voice came through, flat, robotic. "You agreed to remain for the duration of this study." Then silence. Night 4, the lights didn't turn off. They stayed blue, buzzing softly. The camera in the corner now followed my movements. I tested it, stood in one corner, then moved to another quickly. The lens followed. Not instantly, not smoothly, but enough to notice. I stopped sleeping. That's when the dream started. When I did manage to drift off, just micro sleeps, I think I saw myself standing in the hallway, staring at room 7. And in my dreams, my face looked wrong, too long, mouth open, eyes bulging, like something had sculpted me from memory, but got the details just slightly off. One night, I woke up to the sound of whispering, not from the intercom, but from beneath the bed. I didn't check. On night 6, I tried to break the camera. I threw a chair at it. The moment it hit the wall, sirens went off. A red light filled the room. A voice screamed through the intercom. Non-compliant behavior detected. The door opened. 2 people in hazmat suits walked in. I backed in the corner, hands raised. They didn't speak. They grabbed me, strapped something around my neck like a medical collar with wires, and injected something into my arm. I was unconscious in seconds. I woke up, but not in my room. I was in another room. Identical layout, but this one had no door, just walls, a bed, a new camera, and 3 photos taped to the wall. All of them, me, sleeping. But in each one, there's a figure standing behind me, closer in each photo. The last one, he's bending over me. His mouth is open, and his face... I don't know what night it is anymore. I think I'm asleep, or maybe I was the experiment all along. The last photo is changing each day. I think it's live, and tonight I woke up to breathing right behind me. Interesting. You know, you hear about sleep experiments, right? You hear about sleep experiments, and, it's just so much like things like, so like this next one, for example, it's like you think it's someone close to you, think it's someone you know, but it really might not be. We could even ask ourselves that. Am I who I think I am? Am I actually myself right now? The next one's called "My Daughter Keeps Telling Me I'm Not Her Real Dad. I'm Starting to Believe Her." I have a daughter. Her name is Lily. She just turned 6 last month. She's smart, kind, and a little too observant. The kind of kid who stares at strangers a second too long, who listens more than she talks. I love her more than anything, but I don't think she's mine. Let me explain before you write me off as insane. I'm not talking about some "she was switched at birth" theory. I'm saying that Lily I've raised for 6 years is gone, and something else is in her place. It started small, like all things do. About 3 weeks ago, I was making her lunch for school, and she came into the kitchen and stared at me and said, "You cut the crust. You never cut the crust." I laughed. "You like it better that way, don't you?" She didn't answer. She just walked away real quiet. I didn't think much of it. That night during bedtime, she asked me if I remember the time we went to the beach and she got stung by a jellyfish. I said, "That never happened, sweetie." She frowned. "Yes, it did. You carried me all the way to the car and I cried the whole drive home." I've never taken Lily to the beach, ever. We live in Ohio. And when I asked her when this happened, she got mad, told me I always forget everything and that the other dad never forgot. I chalked it up to a dream. Or maybe something she saw in a movie until it got worse. She stopped calling me dad and started calling me him. Him said I couldn't have ice cream. Him said doesn't read stories right. Him smells different. I brought it up to the pediatrician. She said kids her age develop imaginary frameworks all the time, alternate identities, fantasy worlds. It's normal. But Lily's never been like that. She's never had imaginary friends. She's practical, grounded. The next week, she refused to come downstairs for dinner. I found her curled up in the closet, arms over her ears. She looked at me and screamed, "Where's my real dad?" That broke something in me. I tried to hold her, but she flinched, like she didn't recognize me, like I was a stranger. She kept whispering the same thing over and over again. "He's coming back. He's going to fix this." I checked our security cameras the next day. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof I hadn't lost my mind, maybe. Just hours of her playing in the living room, sitting on the couch, coloring, except for one clip around 3:17 a.m. Lily is standing in the hallway, facing the front door, still, for over 9 minutes, not moving, not speaking. Then slowly she lifts her hands and waves at nothing. I checked the door cam. There was no one there. That same night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps, not running, not sneaking, just casual, slow pacing outside my bedroom door. I called out, "Lily?" She didn't answer. The pacing stopped. I opened the door. She was standing in the hallway. Her eyes were wide open, but not focused. Her mouth was slightly ajar. And she was holding something, a small worn teddy bear I've never seen before, not hers. And when I asked where she got it, she said, "He left it for me, so I don't forget." "Who?" She smiled. "You, but not now you, the other one." I took the bear from her hand. It was damp, like it had been outside. There was a piece of paper stuffed inside the seam hand. "I'll be back for her." I lost it. I drove her to her grandmother's that morning. I told her I had work emergency. I just needed time to think, to breathe, to figure out what was happening. I spent the last 2 days scurrying over every piece of tech in the house, every camera, every old family photo, even went to the attic and dug through her baby albums, and that's when I found it. A photo I have never seen. Lily, about 5 years old, standing in front of a man I don't recognize. He's tall, pale, dressed in all black. His face is blurry, like he had moved during the shot, but his hand is on her shoulder. On the back, written in crayon, "Daddy at the beach." We've never been to the beach. I've never met this man. I didn't take that photo. I didn't own that photo, but it was in my house, in my attic, folded into a copy of Goodnight Moon, a book I read to her nearly every night, except the pages weren't right. Half of the book was missing. The remaining pages were blank. I'm going to pick her up tomorrow, but I'm scared, not because of what she might say, but because deep down, some part of me knows I'm not her real dad anymore, not to her, and maybe not to whatever she's waiting for. Super, super weird. That is going to be all the stories we have today across the board. I really appreciate the comments and the support on these. We might have to keep doing this. It's really fun. Although spooky, it surely will keep you awake, some of these, at least one of these stories. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe. Definitely consider subscribing if you want to see more like this. We always love some new subscribers here. So till next time, take care of yourself.